So I just saw that Claudette Colvin had passed away. Now, since it's been like 6 days since she passed away on the 13th, right? I think there's been probably a few videos that people have seen, right? And if you don't know, 9 months before Rosa Parks refused to get up out of her seat on that bus in Montgomery, Alabama, right? Claudette Colvin did it 9 months earlier, right? But when I bring up this situation, I like to teach it like under the idea that like images within the civil rights movement, images when you're doing any kind of protest are very important. And it's also very important who you put out as the face of your image. And it makes you go into literally discriminating against your own people, right? Because they don't look a certain way to try and gain some recognition of how messed up our society was, right? And Claudette Colvin, she was dark skinned, she was 15, she was pregnant, right? And Rosa Parks, I think, was 42. She was married, she was a secretary, she was educated, and the really messed up calculations that were being done during the civil rights movement, it was not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But it like just talks about just how within our own histories there are these stories that are always just underneath the surface, which express like how complicated and messed up our history is at any point in time, right? And I know that like as time has gone on, Claudette Copeland has gotten more and more recognition. I know she has like a street named after her. There are books, but like when it comes to like popular remembrance of like civil rights movement actions, Rosa Parks is the name that everyone knows, right? Because she was something that could resonate with white people in America, right? And it just shows like how jacked up our history is. And the other thing to bring up is the fact that it's 2026, right? And we literally have our president talking about how the civil rights movement was very bad for white guys, right? And we have people who are still alive who were involved in some of the federal court cases and some of the literal actions on the ground that showed white America why you needed this civil rights, right? Why you needed legislation to protect people's civil rights. And it's only been 2 generations, and these people are, and I know they've been passing away, and we're getting to the point where we may be very soon at a time when none of these people will be with us. But the point is that they are still alive. And so like this is the problem. Like Ruby Bridges is 71 years old, right? People have to be reminded that the civil rights movement and the idea of like America being a full functioning democracy for every one of its citizens is not, it's less than 2 generations old. And we're regressing and we're backsliding, right? And like this is like the ultimate worry that we're gonna just be forever stuck in this like stupid cycle where there are improvements made to like make society more equitable and fair. And because like the maintenance of that gets a little bit difficult for those that used to enjoy, that position at the top, that they're just gonna destroy it and at the same time, like make the country worse in the process. But there's just the fact that it's sad to hear that Claudette Copeland passed away, but it's also like an expression of how like history is very. There are multiple layers within history, and history is not straightforward. And just because you have this like stated goal that you think is more moral doesn't mean that you won't have to make like hard decisions to get certain things done. Right? You're not going to be able to moral authority your way into like advocating for civil rights ever. Right? You're gonna have to consider what the other side's thinking and abuse the way that they think, right? It shows like a mastery of like literally understanding who you're going against and like what ways will cause like a connection to whatever racist synapses that they had in their brains. Um, and it's unfortunate she was a victim of that, right? But, gratefully, she is getting her props for literally being a brave teenager. Like when you tell this to like 10th graders, right? And you express the fact that she was just as old as them. That's like a thing that they don't seem to understand either. That a lot of these people were just as old as them, and they have an effect on the world that we live in today. So I'm gonna continue when I get back to teaching U.S. history. If I end up teaching U.S. history again, um, it's always a lesson that I enjoy sharing with the kids, not only to give her her props, but also to acknowledge that like the civil rights movement was this like it was a hodgepodge of ideas to try and make sure that we can like equalize the society, and it's not perfect, and a lot of the people within that were not perfect. There are a lot of issues, um, but this history is recent. It's recent history. That's the other thing to express, and that's the other thing I'm getting like very very annoyed at seeing. Like all these people are complaining, and it's like there hasn't even you guys haven't even let it set in, right? And we're already going back because y'all are just so insecure, and it's absolutely crazy. So, but at this point, I'm rambling, but so I'm gonna stop.